Hi, welcome to the Gamesplainer. I'm Jeff the Gamesplainer and today I'm gamesplaining Village. In the game of Village, you are a family of farmers who live in the village and will earn different levels of influence over the village. This is a worker placement game, but instead of actually placing your meeples onto various spaces around the board in order to action them, you will take an influence cube of a various color from one of the spaces. The spaces are limited by the number of influence cubes on them, and every influence cube must be taken by the time the round ends, or that will actually cause the end of the round. There are coins in this game, however coins are not the main currency. Each coin can be used as a wildcard influence, so if you need to do something that requires 2 influence cubes and you only have, say for example, 1 pink influence, you need a pink and an orange, you can use a coin instead of that orange influence cube. The main currency of the game is time, as marked on your own player board by these time markers. You start with a marker on the first time square just on the right hand side of the bridge, and each time that you need to use some time, you'll push that marker forward. When that marker gets all the way around and crosses the bridge, you need to kill off one of your own players. Each of your meeples has a number on it. That tells you what generation they're from. You start with all the generation 1 meeples in the game, and as more come in, they'll come in with the lowest available. When you kill off your family members, you must kill off your oldest family members first. So you have to kill off all of the level 1 family members before you're able to start killing off the level 2. When you kill them off, they will go into a space depending on where they were working. So if, for example, I had a level 1 meeple over in this space, looking at the color of the shield, he would die into a space within the village chronicle matching the color of shield. So the red shield is for the council chambers, the church is the brown shield, which would come onto this side, the green shield is for the travel space up in the top right hand corner. The yellow shield is for the craftsman spaces over on the left hand side of the board. And the purple shield is for your own farm. So depending where they're working when they die, they will go into a space within the village chronicle. In order to gain a lot of points, and this is probably going to be one of the deciding factors on winning the game, you want to have as many of your own colored meeples in the village chronicle at the end of the game. And this is where the points values lie. So if you can get 5 meeples there, it's going to give you 12 points at the end of the game. If you've got 3, it's only going to give you 4. If the village chronicle is full up from the space that you're having to kill off a meeple from, you have to throw them into the general graveyard. That will be worth no points. The game will finish when either the general graveyard is full or when the village chronicle is full. There are a lot of different things that are able to be done at each of the locations during gameplay. However, I will talk you through just the basics to get the game started, and in the second video I'll go further into the iconography and how things run down. The first thing to be really aware of is that there are a certain number of influence cubes making the number of actions on each space available for each round. So you'll notice there's only 1 action cube here, which means only 1 person is going to be able to go to take that action cube and start the market day. There's 2 action cubes here, which means only 2 different players are going to be able to send their meeples out to travel. Once, however, you have a meeple in an area, so for example, I've gone to travel, if I take an action cube, that means I'm able to move my guy within that area. Or if I'm already in the council chambers, if I take an influence cube here, I'm then able to pay to upgrade. Notice there's a fee to move around the travel as well, and I'll get into all of that in the second video. You are allowed to take an influence cube without actually actioning the space if you don't wish to action the space, but the only way to be able to action the space is to take an action cube. You will notice that there are some black action cubes. These action cubes are representative of the plague. When you take a black action cube, because you have to, as every action cube has to be taken from the board in order for the round to finish. So when you get to your turn, if there's only black influence cubes on the board, you have to take one of them. When you take one of those black influence cubes, you will move your marker, your time marker forward 2 time. So the plague costs you 2 time in your family, pushes one of your guys closer to death. The way to get more meeple onto your board, because everyone starts with just the 4 of the first generation meeples, is through this particular space here. It looks like there's a wedding going on. In essence, what you're looking at is take an influence cube and then take your lowest number available meeple and put him onto your farm. The color of influence cube that you take can be important because some of the things that you'll want to do actually require certain colored influence cubes to be able to do them. I'm looking over at the craft area and up at the travel area, and also in the council chambers. If there are still influence cubes on the board, there may even only be 1 influence cube on the board. You are allowed to trade in 3 of the same colored influence cube at the well to be able to go and do the action that would come with any of the other spaces at the table. That would come with any of the other spaces on the game board, even if there's no influence cubes left at those spots. If you action the one that looks like the horse and cart, you will get grain. The way you get grain depends on your own farm. So first up, you must have at least 1 meeple still on the farm in order to get any grain from that action space. So if that's what your board looks like, you'll get 2 grain for going there. If, however, you have a horse and a plow as well, you'll be able to grab 3 grain. And if that's an ox, you'll be able to grab 4 grain. The only other space I really want to deal with right at the moment is the church. The church is really important. In order to go to the church, once again, take the influence cube. Oh, by the way, whenever you look at the iconography on the board, if there's little pictures of hourglass, that may advance your time marker forward that number of hourglasses on your own board. So when you go to the church, you will need to either spend 1 brown influence cube or 3 time, as I just showed you, and you'll take 1 of your meeples and put them into this black bag. In that black bag also exist 4 of these black meeples. These black meeples are called monks. At the end of the round, once all of the cubes have been taken off the board, we go to a mass. What happens at the mass is, first up, you have a choice of spending a coin to be able to grab your own meeple out of the bag. So I could spend 1 coin, grab this and guarantee that he comes out. Or I could take my chances. So if I don't spend the coin, the hand goes in and we'll pull out 1, 2, 3, 4. And I hope that my meeple is amongst those 4. Any monks that were pulled out during that draw will go straight back into the bag for the next round. And any coloured or meeple of players will go onto the first window within the church. Then everyone will have the chance to spend grain that they may have collected through this round or previous rounds to move from one window up to the next. What you're doing is gaining influence within the church. So if I spend 1 bag of grain, I can move 1 of my meeples. Once everyone has made all the movement, and you can move up as many windows as you like, as long as you can pay the amount of grain that's in between the windows. So if you move from this window to this window, you would have to pay 3 grain. You can also pay for as many meeples to move. So if you have multiple sitting there, you could pay, say, 2 grain to move those 2 guys to there, and then another 2 grain to move that one up. Once everyone has paid for their meeples to be moved up through the windows, the player who has the most family members in the church will gain 2 prestige points, which is tracked on the outside track of the board. If there's a tie with the number of family members in the church from other players, the player who is on the highest window space will gain those prestige points. At the end of the game, you'll notice there are points up the top of each window. You will gain that many prestige points for each of your own family members who is in each of those windows. And wherever you see this little marker anywhere on the board, that is also worth points, usually at the end of the game. So in the council chambers, if you've got your own guys in the various spots on the council chambers, then they'll gain those points, those prestige points. And these ones up in the traveling area will go to the player straight away. Everything on this board is able to be held by multiple players. So just because there is one player in this space, that doesn't mean another player can't also be in that space. It also doesn't mean that more players or multiple players from the same person or same color can't be in the same space. There is no limit to the number or colors of meeples that can occupy any space on this board. Okay, I think that will do us for part one. That's given you a pretty clean overview of how the game plays. I will go into the iconography a little bit more and what we need to do on various other elements of the board a little bit more in part two. So please go on and watch that. I hope this helps you get Village to the table. If you have any games that you wish to be Gamesplaned, please shoot me an email at thegamesplainer@gmail.com. If you have any comments or suggestions, please write them below. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter to see what games I've been playing at The Gamesplainer. Subscribe to my videos to keep up to date with the games that I'm gamesplaining. And until next time, enjoy gaming.